Hello chess fans, we're going to analyze my round 5 game against a 2000 rated player. So this was a player I was actually very familiar with. I have played them many times before in Nova Scotia, and usually they like going for these e6 d5 setups. So I decided to go for c4, which is sort of what I've been doing this tournament, and they went c6. So already they kind of surprised me by the fact that c6 indicates that they want to go d5 and sort of bring this bishop outside, while e6, they can't really bring the bishop out because it's blocked. So I went knight f3, d5, e3, defending my pawn, and here they went knight f6. This is all expected. I went knight c3, continuing to develop, and I'm doing d4 just in case, he goes for some setup where I don't want to go d4. For example, if he goes bishop g4, I can immediately go queen b3, and I immediately have a lot of pressure, and no weak d4 pawn or anything. Or if he goes like, I don't know, like a6 or something, maybe I can go d3 in some positions. It's just a very flexible setup. But he went for g6, which is the selector Slav, and something that I really had no idea what to do against. But recently I had actually seen a few lines on it. So I decided to go for d4, bishop g7, bishop d3, castles, castles. And my opponent decided to take on c4, which is pretty natural to make the bishop waste a move and then maybe get some tempos with b5. But here the only line I knew was bishop g4, h3, takes, takes. And now you've gotten rid of your bishop, but you've put your pawns on light squares. And then here the moves I knew were d takes, and knight bd7, with the idea to go e5. So you go rook d1. Oops, sorry about that. Rook d1 to fight against e5. They go e5 anyways. And now here I remember this move d5. And this is sort of the idea of the line, is that we're not going to allow them e5. Their bishop is still closed, and our rook is nice, and we have the bishop pair. Should be a good position. The line might continue with something like e4, takes here, knight b6, and the most natural move here looks to be bishop b3, saving the bishop pair. But here, actually, black is actually getting a certain amount of counterplay after this, with this pawn being weak. And for example, if you play a move like rook b1, like you already might be doing very badly after rook a d8. It's very unclear. So instead of bishop b3, rook b1 is actually just doing very, very well for white in the database, and this line is pretty much dead because of it. So instead of that, my opponent decided to go d takes c4, and I think at this point, both me and my opponent were sort of improvising. So I have to take back here. And here again, my opponent sort of surprised me. I mean, I expected maybe bishop g4, h3, and we just transpose, but he went knight bd7, which, okay, now I think my opponent is going back into what he likes, which is sort of just blocking this bishop and just waiting 100 moves to do something with it later. So here I played a little bit of a strange move. I thought he wanted to play b5. So I decided to go for this move a4, which I thought was not going to really be a bad move for me. Maybe I could go a5, also fight against the knight on b6. And then if he goes knight knight d5, I can go for this move e4. And I thought my position might be nice. Here he went for knight b6. And maybe I should go bishop b2. It's also very much something that I should consider. But I decided to go bishop b3, keeping my bishop on the nice diagonal. And here my opponent played the first move where it's a little bit strange. So maybe here my opponent should just get rid of the bishop. But here they decided to go a5. And I'm not entirely sure my idea was to go for a4, but okay, they do create a b4 square. Now, at the time, I sort of criticized this move in analysis, but maybe it's not so bad. It's also a very reasonable move. So, and as we're going to see from this game, I don't think I have the right to criticize any move because I played so many bad moves this game. So here I went for this move e4, which sort of just takes control of the center, and that's sort of my idea. Like, my opponent has pretty much allowed me to do this by taking away. They went bishop g4, I defended, and here they went for this move knight e8, attacking this pawn again and threatening takes, and if I take with the queen, they could take here on d4. And here, okay, I sort of just made a small mistake. Here, maybe I should go here with the idea that if takes, I can actually take here with the queen. And what I had missed is that after takes, I thought he was just winning a pawn after e5, but take a few seconds to see if you can find the move here for white. You have knight e2, and then on c5, rook takes c5. And this is what I sort of missed from afar, was that I had this rook takes c5 move utilizing this pin, and if he takes, I take, and I take here. And notice rook d1 is not mate because the bishop covers it. So I missed this tactic, was winning from afar, and okay, if I've seen this, I should have probably gone for it. At this point, maybe black doesn't have any better options than going knight d6, blocking it, and then, okay, you can just fully get the bishop pair after something like here. So this should have been quite good for white, but instead I went queen d2 because I didn't see that. Okay, so takes. This is still not that bad for me. Here I went for d5, and I thought, okay, I have the two bishops. I mean, I have this passed pawn in the center. Should be nice. Here you went knight f6, which is actually a mistake. Maybe here, I think he should take on d5. Or no, he should probably go knight d6 to go knight c4. Knight on f6 is kind of bad. And yeah, here I missed my I missed my chance, really. Here, I should really go for some sort of move that actually just keeps the pawn on d5, something like rook a1. And after cd, ed, position is actually very nice for me, surprisingly. Look at all my pawns, they're backwards, they're weak. It looks horrible, but the two bishops actually fully compensate. And here, black is in somewhat of a zugzwang. Like, it's hard to recommend what move looks natural here. So let's say rook c8 looks very natural. Here I would go d6, knight c4, takes. And now here actually d7. And they can't move the rook. They can't move the queen because I promote. They can't move this rook because of bishop here. So, okay, let's say they go knight h5. Idea being now maybe they can move the rook back because if I move my bishop to b6, they have like queen g5 and knight f4 ideas. But here maybe I can go queen d5 and on rook d7, maybe something like knight e4. Now just covering the g5 square, and now I'm threatening bishop b6 and they can't do anything. So actually this position is already like plus 1.5, and that's something I very much did not see. Here I decide to take, and okay, we got to this position where I thought we were in a slightly better endgame for me, and this is something where I thought that pretty much only I can win, but yeah, I was very, very wrong. I played this game very, very badly, and I actually gave myself a lot of losing chances. Okay, so I went bishop a2, which is the first move, which is like, it's very, very confusing. So I thought if the rook goes to b8, I'm going to have to play bishop a2 anyways. So why don't I just do it right now? Because my rook might want to go to c1. This rook might want to go to d1. I'm not entirely sure. But here I should really just put this rook on c1. I'm not even sure why I didn't do this. The idea of putting this rook on c1 is that knight d1 would not block the rook from getting to the game. So yeah, and then I can push b4 at some point. A line might continue like rook c8, something like knight d1, knight e3, and this rook is tied down. But instead I went bishop a2, and the thing I missed was that now the rook does not have to go to b8 at all. He can probably just go to c8 and then just be fine. Maybe go c4, c5, c4. And then I shouldn't have any sort of advantage here anymore. But instead he went knight bd7, which is a decent move. I went bishop e3, and now he went rook a b8. And this is the point where I make such an ugly looking move that I think that anyone below 2000 would not consider this move, and they would be right for not considering a move because of how bad it looks. And I think it's the type of move that is inexplicable, really, because I don't think it's a human move. It's very much not a human move, and it's not a terrible move, but it is very unnatural. So, okay, obviously you don't want to defend with the rook, because then he can go like rook b4 and then double. So what else do you do? So you have a few options. The first option that's most natural is rook here, threatening this pawn behind this, and now knight d1. And then, for example, if he goes rook b4 here, he can't even take here because of bishop f7. And we'd get this position, which, okay, I saw a position like this. I thought, okay, I've gotten rid of his weakness, but I've gotten rid of his weakness, and I've gotten rid of maybe one of my weaknesses, but now I just have the bishop pair. I didn't think it was that clear. I still have these doubled pawns, which might make it hard to win. Now, this is not how you think about chess. I should have really just evaluated this position. Instead, I went for this terrible, terrible move, b3, which, okay, according to the engine, is not that bad. I went from plus 0.5 to like plus 0.2, but okay, in hindsight, this was just the wrong idea. My bishop's completely blocked, and okay, I think if I had a coach, they would be like, okay, this b3 move is just ridiculous. So, yeah, here he went rook fc8, which is very natural. I went rook fc1. Allowing myself to go knight d1. Now here I also think I should have just gone knight d1 right away to just immediately go for c4, because he is able to get a knight to e6 very quickly, and then the bishop's going to come around. And here I already made a very, very bad move. So I played rook c4, and in the post-game analysis, like both me and my opponent talked about this position, and we thought, okay, rook c4 is like pretty much the only move, right? Because I'm sort of preventing rook b4. I'm also not allowing him to go here in some positions, discouraging a lot of different moves, also looking to double. But actually here I really had to play this move bishop d2. Attacking here, he'd go rook a8, and now I had to go b4. This was incredibly vital to trade off this absolutely terrible bishop. And actually if I did this, my advantages actually just realized. For example, if he just takes here, he might already be much worse after something like this. I have the outside pass pawn, his bishop is much worse than mine, and my knight has clear squares. Like, his knight can get to f4, but, like, what does his knight do on f4? It actually just doesn't do anything. And here, this outside pass pawn should give me a decent advantage. But I didn't see that. I instead went for rook c4. And yeah, at this point, I'm actually worse after this move, bishop f8. And during the game, I thought I was still slightly better, and maybe here I was getting a little bit too ambitious, and I ended up misplaying even more. So I went rook c ac1, which is the most natural move, and here my opponent really should have gone for bishop b4, rook c2, and c5. And once the bishop is on b4, he's defended both his weaknesses, his bishop is not locked behind his pawns, and I have no active ideas. So yeah, here I would probably be close to losing. Like, my bishop is horrible, my rooks are horrible, my pieces are all terrible. He's going to get the d file. His weaknesses are defended. Like, I mean, now looking at this position, hindsight is 2020. Obviously, I think now that my opponent sees this and saw this after the game, they're like, oh, wait, this is so much better than my bishop on f8. But yeah, instead they went c5. And yeah, here I think I made the sort of move that actually gave me chances in the game. I think it's a decent practical move, but technically it is a mistake. So see if you can find what you would do here. I think there's a few moves you can consider that pretty much don't do anything. Like, for example, let's see what the engine says. Like, you can consider bishop d2, king f1, rook c2, rook c2. Like, all these moves are like moves. None of them are the moves I played, which should make the move I played pretty obvious. Like, I played f4. And f4 is a mistake. It is a bad move, which might lose the game. Against a very high-rated player, I think I would have lost this game at this point. And yeah, it's just very bad play by me. But here my opponent made a big mistake, which I calculated, which was knight d4. So my opponent ended up meeting the most tactical move with a move that's just, I think, pretty obviously a mistake. Just trading a bunch of pieces. And so here, what I was most worried about is the move knight g4. And I can't exactly remember. I remember we discussed this after the game, like that I was most worried about knight g4. But yeah, I don't think we fully discovered like why he rejected this move, and I don't remember exactly why I was entirely afraid of it. But I'm pretty sure the line was f5 takes, and then something like knight c7, and then here I thought after knight g3, okay, the position is incredibly drawish because we have opposite colored bishops. All his pawns are on dark squares, all my pawns are on light squares, and my structure is no longer even that bad. So it's probably just going to be a draw. But okay, only really black can press here. Though granted, like I don't even think this is a difficult position to draw. Maybe it is kind of easy. Like, my rooks are probably going to go to the d file, and yeah, he just has no activity either. So this is maybe what he could have done if he was wanting, like, if he wanted to play it safe. He could have gone knight g4. But actually, bishop h6 might just be completely winning with a similar idea. If I go f5, takes, knight g4 here, and here he had to see this move rook d8, which is what I think my opponent did actually miss. Was just sacrificing this pawn to get here and knight here. And then this is interesting. Wait, though, actually, don't I have rook c2? Knight f3 here, I win. King h1. Oh, wow. This is nice, yeah. And then sacking a pawn for the initiative. So, yeah, doing that in the endgame is, I think, very difficult. So this one, I think we both didn't consider that much. So knight d4 and knight g4 were the main two moves I was considering, and he ended up playing the worst one, which I thought after takes, bishop takes. Notice that he can't take because he's pinned. He went here, and now I went bishop back to e3. And now I have the two bishops, and I have traded the e-pawns, which at first might not seem like good at all, but actually his knights had a lot of places to go, and were doing a very nice job. But my knight was doing nothing. So by trading that off and weakening my structure a little bit, like yes, my pawns are less connected, I think I've generally improved my position. And here he blundered. He played rook b4, which is a really bad move, and I didn't see why. So take a few seconds to see if you can see why rook b4 is a bad move. And it's not a tactic or anything, so pause the video if you didn't see it. Just takes here, and now I have a passed pawn. And it's very, very easy. And now I saw, after bishop b1, f5, takes, rook c4, I'm actually winning this pawn. Because if he goes here, I can go here. But here, he can actually just sack the pawn and then go c4. And once I saw this, I didn't go for this line, because I didn't see an immediate win. Now, first off, my thinking was probably a little bit flawed, because he can go knight f6. Like, there's pretty much nothing wrong with that. But also, after this, I don't have to take here. I can just go like bishop d3 and start pushing the pawn. Notice, he can't really go knight d6 because I just take here. So yeah, I really should have gone for that, but I went for bishop e1, which is second best move. Takes, knight f6. Now bishop c2, keeping this defended. Knight d5, attacking my bishop. Here I went bishop d2. yeah, now knight b4. And here, again, I made a mistake. Here, maybe I should go for this move f5. Now, I was worried about takes, and rook b8. And I didn't really see what I was doing. And yeah, I think this is a draw. But at this point, maybe I should just make a draw. Instead, I went bishop b4. And now he went rook b8, which is sort of, I think, a big mistake. Here, he should go for this move rook d8. And after here, go knight d5. And if I take here, for example, this might just be a draw. Because he's threatening mate, let's say here, then rook d3. And he's winning his pawn back. So maybe it was just going to be a draw if he played very accurately. But okay, it's very difficult to find moves like rook d8, which look like they're losing pawns. So he went rook b8, which looks like it's saving pawns. But now I get the chance. Now I did have the chance to go f5 and get rid of my weakness, but I missed it. Instead, I went bishop here. And now he should probably go f5 to save his weakness. But instead, he went knight here. Now I have to defend this. Or actually, he could have gone this in any order. Now he should probably go f5, or he should go bishop g7, bishop d3, and here, which would trade more material off the board, and again, probably be a draw. But okay, we have to take our chances. He went bishop d6, which is, I think, probably the game-losing move. But okay, objectively, this doesn't lose the game for him, but it made it very difficult to defend. And now the position is around +1. So here I went rook d3, rook b6, rook d1. My idea was I wanted to go bishop d5, but I don't want to allow knight b4 with the fork. Now here, again, I should have gone f5, rook d1, king f8. Now f5. I apologize for that. I'm actually getting, my voice is becoming a little bit raspy. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, now I went f5, king e7, takes, bishop d5, activating the bishop now, getting to defend, and this is the structure I wanted, with the bishop on c4, because now the bishop's active and it's defending the pawn. Now we saw knight b4, bishop c4, and here my opponent just told me they have no idea what to do. But here they really had to see that this move bishop g5 is a big threat. And after knight c2 here, knight b4, here, I actually had a more easy, here I actually played a bad move, but here I should probably go for this move rook e1, and the idea is, okay, if they move away, then I just win this pawn. If they move this way, then takes, check here, something like bishop d2, this pawn is hanging, and if they defend it, then rook a8 wins this pawn. And yeah, bishop c7 doesn't work, knight here doesn't work because of here, and they just can't defend this pawn. And I would be completely winning. Instead, I didn't see that. Now, granted, here we have 10 minutes or something, and around this point, I can't remember, somewhere here, he offered me a draw. I think it was around here he offered a draw. And okay, obviously I didn't want to draw. So yeah, I went bishop g5, and here take a few seconds to see if you can find the saving move for black. So okay, there's a few things to consider. If you move the king this way, you lose this pawn. If you move the king this way, which is what he did in the game, which loses instantly, we're going to see what happened. So the only move was f6. And now here my opponent saw rook e1, king moves wherever, and then I lose a pawn. Right? No. He actually takes here, and then he wins his pawn back, and this is a draw. So I would not go for that. I would probably just have to go back. And then, okay, he's created a weakness. It's not very clear what's happening. But instead of that, he went king f8, because I think at this point he thought he was already losing, and he didn't want to go down a pawn. So here I went bishop d8. And I can't remember if my opponent said they missed this or they underestimated it, but yeah, at this point, black's just lost. Because notice that the rook has to guard the bishop. If the rook moves back, I take the bishop. If he goes here like he did in the game, I go bishop b5, and there's no squares to defend the bishop from. So he went bishop b5, I took the rook, I'm up the exchange. Now bishop b6, an accurate move, attacking this. Bishop d4, now rook c1, and there's no way to defend this. He went c4, and I took here. There's really no need to allow him to trade pawns. Why would I do this? And also, as a general rule, like, just get the knight off the board, especially when you're low on time. Like, you don't want to calculate all these forks. Bishops are much easier to deal with. I went rook c4. His only move is to take here. Otherwise, I win a piece. If he moves back, I win this. If he moves his knight, I win this. So he has to take here. I took back, and yeah, at this point, it's pretty clean. I just moved my pawns onto light squares. Went here, and yeah, here he resigned the game. But funnily enough, actually, even if this pawn was off the board, I'm winning. Now, if that position were to occur, I don't know if I would actually win, because you have to show a lot of technique, and I do not know how. But yeah, with the pawn on the board, all I'm just going to do is go rook b5, a6, rook b6, and I don't even care if he takes, because then I'll make a queen. So yeah, I think that was a pretty nice game of how to use the two bishops. And I think this is sort of the type of practical game that you see at the amateur level. Like, I think for most of us, we see all these games where, okay, the GM gets an advantage out of the opening and they play perfect and they convert it. But very, very rarely, and that's how I used to think that I should win every game. And I used to win games like that against these 1800s because, okay, they don't really put up as much of a fight as a 2000 would. But this game really shows that, like, okay, chess is a very practical game. Like, every level of players makes a lot of mistakes. And there are mistakes that in drawn positions, in easy to play seemingly positions. Like, there's a reason that these GMs are GMs. As that's the reason, because they play so perfect. So yeah, I think it's a very illustrative game of how to play practically, how to use your chances, how to play a bad move that looks like a bad move, but okay, gives you some chances practically in a game against the 2000. So yeah, that's the end of today's video, guys. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys against the next one. Oh, that was a stutter.